YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in Total War Warhammer, and we've got a replay that was submitted. This is going to be Greenskins versus Bretonnia. This is actually from Dr. Pult. He's submitted stuff before. He's a big fan of the Greenskins, and he said he was trying to play as Bretonnia this week, but a couple of times he had his opponent pick Bretonnia, and so he wanted to send me the replay of when he liked to switch over to the Greenskins, which he said was probably his favorite faction anyway. I see an Orc War Boss on a War Boar, and we got an Orc Shaman, Lure the Big Wah, and I can't see real good down here on the items that he has with him, but he's got a few spells with him, one of which is Foot of Gork. Doomdiver Catapult. I like Savage Orcs in the center. That's a cool pick. Biggins supporting the flanks and the rear, along with Boar Biggins. And these are going to be the kind of units you're going to want around in case you get hit by the flying Goon Squad. And check it out. He's got the Goon Squad distracted. There's 2 Paladins and a Grail Knight distracted with some Wolf Riders, which is pretty sweet. It's a good way to go. Just get these guys distracted and keep their attention. 2 Knights of the Realm on the other flank. Looks like we've got a center of Spearmen at Arms, flanks with pole arms, Peasant Bows, 4 of them under center, and then Leonker. So let's see how Dr. Pult's army faces off here against Bretonnia. Looks like his Wolf Riders actually got caught here, so he's going to lose them early on. So probably just positioning, or he got pounced on there or something like that. That can happen. The Wolf Riders are faster, but every now and then just by positioning and stuff you can get caught by a flyer who maybe brackets you off one way, and then the cavalry or something that brackets you off from another direction. Okay, let's see what we got going on. Still got the Wolf Riders being cleaned up in the background. Looks like they're going to go off the field without a whole lot of success. And the Doomdiver, curious to see what he's targeting. He's going to actually start targeting the cavalry way out here on the flanks. Does he have the range? He doesn't have the range. Not yet, at least. So I'm assuming that Bretonnia, they're going to go ahead and move up. They do have the ranged advantage, and the Peasant Bows can cause immense damage to the Savage Orcs. So let's watch what happens. The good thing about Savage Orcs is that they will cause immense damage to the otherwise very defensive and cost-effective infantry of Bretonnia. The Bretonnian infantry needs to, they need to get on their heels fast and not take this charge. They need to brace, and it looks like they are going to turn and brace, so that's going to do well for Bretonnia. The Paladin going to come in to disrupt the Savage Orcs. Not a bad plan. They have pretty poor leadership for the most part. Some Goblin Big Bosses being used to help shore up their morale, though, and the Savage Orcs are going to tear home onto the spears. And then there's some Biggins and other stuff sitting around here in the background. You can see the Savage Orcs are going to cause some pretty nice damage where they actually get in there. But of course, the Bowmen are going to be a significant threat. Look at this Paladin over here getting wrecked by a Goblin Big Boss. Absolutely wrecked. So that's a pretty nice engagement for the Goblin Big Boss. Leonker comes in here and lands in the middle of the Savage Orcs. That can be rough, because like I said, the leadership on these guys is questionable at best. You can see Leonker just narrowly escaping through his own infantry, but still being tagged by the Boar Biggins and keeping him on the ground. That's where I like the Boar Biggins. Savage Orcs, their leadership is preventing them from breaking through the line because of the damage from the archers. This Paladin gets taken out by the Goblin Big Boss. Like I said, that was a huge engagement for the Greenskins. These infantry really need to be folded in on these Orc Biggins, but the spears here routing. Leonker using his mass, he's going to try and get away. He's going to have to plow through quite a few of the Boar Biggins. He gets through. It looks like the Knights of the Realm over here being mobbed by Greenskins. There's a Grail Knight here that's going to shut down the Doomdiver Catapult, which got some kills on the Knights of the Realm. Not looking great for the Greenskins so far, but some of the front infantry line for Bretonnia is crumbling. Some of their units are going to come back from routing for the Greenskins, so they can start to bring these guys back. Leonker is on the ground at the moment, trying to get rid of a Orc Biggin unit. And the War Boss is here to support morale, which is going to be important. So Orc Biggins pushing through the main line, the archers having to fall back. If the Orcs can get anything fast moving into those archers, and this is where I would have liked the Wolf Riders to be around, but clearly Bretonnia know that kind of threat. Comes the hit from the Bretonnian cavalry here. Going to absolutely smash what was left of these Biggins. The War Boss in a bit of a dangerous spot here against all these Grail Knights, but he's going to come on in and try and pin Leonker on the ground. Gets a very nice charge there. Goblin Big Boss, so if they can tag team here, triple team here, actually another Goblin Big Boss in the way, they might be able to pull Leonker. Oh, the Foot of Gork. smashing in on the Grail Knights. Nice use there because there wasn't a lot of greenskin infantry around. So takes away a lot of health on the Grail Knights. So Orc Shaman's still alive. Here's a complete Biggin unit. There's a Biggin unit out here that can be brought back in, and there's Savage Orcs who've come back from routing, and a Boar Biggin that's come back from routing. Leonker is actually pinned down by a couple of the Goblin big bosses, and the Paladins aren't near enough to support him, and the Paladins need to support him. This one's tied down over here in a bunch of Orc Biggins. So the Bretonnian player making some key mistakes here. You've got to keep the Paladins near enough to support Leonker in case he ends up in this kind of situation. And here we go, being used to buff the hits on the Goblin. Look at that, Goblin big boss on a spider takes down the mighty King Leonker, and that is probably going to be all she wrote for Bretonnia and her peasants. Depends on how many Grail Knights are left. There's some here, and there's a Knights of the Realm over here that's fairly healthy, so the battle's not over yet for Bretonnia, but they're going to have to get active here if they want to win this one. This Paladin, if it doesn't have a healing potion, so the Bretonnian player cheaped out on the healing potion to get more cavalry. Same thing here. That was probably a mistake. So Bretonnia's got a little bit of leadership left. The Orc war boss, though, is still very much alive. He's using his potion of toughness right now. And then there's a couple of Goblin big bosses, and this one right here has gotten into the archers back here. The other archer does not have line of sight because the Goblin big boss is pretty small. So they're not able to fire in, even though you can tell they're trying to. They might have wanted to turn their attention over here to the Orc big boss. Orc Shaman getting taken out by a combination of polearms and spears, so that's unfortunate. This Biggin unit here yet to be reactivated by Dr. Pulp. So a mistake so far. Let's see if he catches it, because this is going to be a pretty tight finish, especially with these Knights of the Realm running around and so many archers. This Grail Knight gets taken off the field, though, and chased off by the Goblin big boss, so that's going to be huge. And the Biggins have been reactivated, and there's some Boar Biggins that got reactivated as well. If the Boar Biggins can pin down this Knights of the Realm long enough for the Orc Biggins to get there, that'll be pretty big. Get it? Big Biggins? Ooh. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. I think they attacked just a little bit too early here. They're going to lose their morale due to the fire incoming. But the power bar is actually flipping against Bretonnia here, and it's probably because they just took another... No, the Paladin's still here, but as these units use up their ammunition en route, that's going to be dropping the power bar for Bretonnia. So the Biggins coming back in. The Orc War Boss going to take a nasty charge from the Knights of the Realm, but he'll be supported by Biggins if he can hang out for a little bit longer. Still a polearm unit and a Paladin here. The Paladin's going to be in trouble, though, because the other he doesn't have a healing potion, and because the other Paladin's dead, they can't focus down these Goblin big bosses. If they land, the Goblin big bosses can tag team them, and that'll be definitely the end for Bretonnia at that point. So there's bowmen that the Orcs are going to want off the field, but there's some other situations that the Orcs got to deal with. There's still a little bit of infantry. There's still a leader, so definitely not over yet, I don't think, for either player. It just kind of depends on what happens here. Goblin big boss being sent after the archers, which is appropriate. The Paladin has come down into the Orc Biggins. Not a good choice, especially if this Goblin big boss is properly activated against him, which it is. So now the Paladin's going to suffer badly in this fight. The Orc Shaman might die here. Let's see what he... here we go. Nice cast. It's going to destroy the Paladin. More hits from the Biggins as well. And with that Paladin gone, I think Bretonnia is kind of thrown it away here at this point, because the Biggins are going to perform well versus these Spearmen at Arms and these Knights of the Realm. So yeah, that one's going to go in favor of the Greenskins there. So a couple of key mistakes here. So definitely some things that the Greenskin or the Bretonnia should have improved. Now Dr. Pult sent me another replay. Let's check it out real quick. Oh, whoops! I think I just clicked the same one. My bad. Yeah, I just clicked the same one. I'll have to load it up when we get to this other screen. Give me just a second. Yep. Same battle. There we go. Quit replay, load replay. Yeah, let's watch his other replay. And I'm going to just kind of use these battles as a little bit of watching to summarize Bretonnia week. And you saw me win a lot with Bretonnia, so I wanted you to show a couple of matches where I figured that the person submitting this was probably beating Bretonnia. A lot of you are like, yeah, the person who submits it always wins. Well, I mean, typically when people want to send you battles they're proud of, they're not going to send you the ones where they lose. So that is true to an extent. So let's see here. Goblin Wolf Riders way out on the flank. I like it. Now there is an Arachnarok Spider here, which this will be interesting because the Arachnarok actually has quite a lot of armor, which will help it against Bretonnian bowmen. It won't save it from it. We got Orc Biggins as a main line, a couple of Savage Orcs, a couple of boar, there's at least one Boar Biggin there, and then just 4 Goblin Wolf Riders, so it's an interesting choice. We got 2 Grail Knights here on the far flank. The Goon Squad is 2 Paladins, Leonker, and a Pegasus Knight. And then it looks like a main line of polearms backed up by a crap load of peasant bows. Now, this is a bit risky of an army for Bretonnia because they have so few infantry units to protect this many archers. At the same time, it's not insanely risky because their flying squad can do immense damage to orc infantry and skirmishers and catapults and all that kind of stuff, and the Grail Knights should easily be able to keep units off of the flanks because they are such a powerful cav unit. So it is risky, but if he uses these support units right, he can definitely protect his flanks fairly well and let these peasant bows do their work, depending on what the orc has picked. In this case, there is no Doom Diver. We've got the monster. The real danger here is that that spider could quite easily, and this is an interesting position he's picked here. You can see he's really picked his high ground. The archers up there and the polearms, so the Bretonnian, I think, means to camp. That spider could hit this front line, and he's absolutely going to wreck right through the front line of spears and polearms. There's one spearman in there, so he must have run out of money, and he can easily get to these archers. Now, he can't pin down all those archers at once, but if the spider punches through the main infantry line, and there's support from the Goblin Wolf Riders, I don't think that the Grail Knights can stop all of the units coming in from the Greenskins. So I almost kind of feel like if the Greenskins will come up here, engage the main line, punch through with the spider, destroy the archers, and then they should be in good shape. Probably should go ahead and bring the Wolf Riders, and this would just be me. We'll see how he plays it. I would bring my Wolf Riders in to start trying to get the attention of this Goon Squad and keep its attention, and that would help me hopefully win the battle. Let's take a look. Orc War Boss, Orc Shaman, so going with the Big Wah again. Big Wah is definitely a good lore, I think, to take against Bretonnia. One Goblin up front to see whether or not his opponent's using fire at will. I like that. Are the Goblins shielded? They are. Interesting. It's not going to take much to damage them, but still they're shielded. And again, the fast Wolf Riders, if they can just distract, look at all this high spend here moving towards the Wolf Riders. This is perfect. If they can distract this stuff, then that's going to be a win for the Greenskins in and of itself. Like, see here, like to see the Wolf Riders go ahead and start moving this way. Your infantry pushes the bowmen back, and then your Wolf Riders are right there to swing in. So it looks like all the flyers attempting to get to the Wolf Riders. Here comes all the fire. It is on fire at will. So this one Goblin unit's going to absorb all of the peasant bows. If you're going to bring this many bows, you definitely need to be ready to try and micromanage them, because firing all these arrows at this cheap Goblin unit is definitely a misuse of the bowmen, who could be doing extensive damage to Biggins, which are a substantial threat, as opposed to the non-threat of these goblins. So this is a cheap way to see if your opponent's paying attention and to force them to micromanage the archers. So I think it was a good call. And you can see here how much damage gets done to the Biggins, even just while they're walking through that unit of goblins. It's significant. And those bowmen could have done that damage had they been focused. The other thing I probably would have liked to have seen here is that the Flying Goon Squad should have hit this infantry. And then the Bretonnian player is countercharging here, which is a huge mistake against the Greenskins, because his charge defense against all will not be in effect whenever you're not braced. So a gigantic mistake here for the Bretonnian army. And here comes the spider. The Goon Squad's waiting in the wings, and I don't know what they're waiting for. Their opportunity is actually kind of already passed. And here you've got Wolf Riders holding down Grail Knights for an Orc Biggin, and then there's some Foot of Gort coming in here. Oh, this is beautiful. Beautiful use of the Wolf Riders. That was like 600 gold and traded it for 3,000. Destroying that right there is probably the best use of Foot of Gork I've ever seen in a battle. Like, that was incredible. Greenskins right there just smashed out 3,000 gold worth of units. That was just absolutely gorgeous. Dr. Pult, I commend you. If there was some kind of award I could give you for that, like the the greenskin Wa of Valor or something, then you would receive it for such a feat. Now the spider can chase off these archers, infantry can chase the archers, and this is a done deal. That Foot of Gork right there won the battle. I mean, easily won the battle. So blobbing up the 2 Grail Knights into the wolves was an overconfidence, and not considering the potential impacts from that shaman. And now all the flyers come down attempting to try and right this wrong, and now the greenskins are just going to pile in. Look at that Grail Knight, man. That's all that's left of the Grail Knight. That Orc Shaman right there, 56 Grail Knights to his credit that he killed, so that was incredible. And I'm assuming that was an overcast Foot of Gork too, probably. So yeah, just mop up the archers here. Looks like the spider is taking some fire. You can see its armor helps. It does not make it impervious, and focused fire from 5 archers would still melt the spider, but it certainly helps it. The flying death squad is still very much alive, but if the greenskins can clean up these archers, then they'll be in good shape. And a lot of the wolf riders are gone, but if any of them come back, which I don't, yeah, there's one right here. These wolf riders need to get after these bowmen, and that would be a fantastic use for them. The spider's already doing a lot of this damage, which is great, but the bowmen do come back pretty frequently. The war boss is getting focused down by the couple of the flyers. Be good to see the spider get over here and try and prevent this. He's got the potion of healing going on, which is definitely a good idea, and Wa has been cast. Here comes some boar biggins. This would definitely be a good opportunity to get the spider over here, and then those wolf riders need to come here and push these bowmen off that spider. But it looks like the war boss here getting some work done. One of the paladins dropping. Again, no healing potion on the paladin. I'm not sure why the Bretonnian would not put healing potions on the paladin. They must be spending too much money on Grail Knights. It's definitely better, I think, to go with like a Knights of the Realm and end up with a healing potion on your paladin, because I think that you'll get more bang for your buck there. Or just go with 1 Grail Knight instead of 2, because you'll be able to micromanage them better. Leonker is going to get bogged down here in a mass of biggins, which is definitely not a place for him to be. Spiders nearby. It could come over here and imbue poison damage to Leonker, but it's too late. It doesn't matter. So that Foot of Gork there, like I said, I think it was pretty much battle winner. It was really a incredible use of the Foot of Gork. Very nice job by the Orc Shaman there. So fun replays from Dr. Polt. Some of you asked me how the Greenskins could beat the Bretonnian flying death squads. It's not super easy for them, especially if the death squad is being controlled very expertly. It's going to be harder for you in general terms to stop a flying death squad than it will be to use one. It can be done. Typically, you're going to want to bring the right kind of support units, so anti-large units, cavalry to help keep those flying units on the ground when they swoop in. You might have to keep your lord or your shamans or wizards or whatever it is. You may have to keep them within another unit, so that if the guys come charging down, again, you have to swoop in and mob and keep them stuck. Poison damage is always helpful. Magic can be helpful. There's lots of things that you can use to help try and pull down some of the strength of a flying death squad like that. Now let's summarize. I'm going to use Dr. Polt's replays here, and then we'll just summarize Bretonnia. They're a fairly easy faction to summarize because they are fairly limited in their roster. And I've heard that there won't be a whole ton more units when these guys get fleshed out, unless Creative Assembly goes to town with Games Workshop and comes up with some new stuff or something. I've heard that there's just not a whole lot more units out there for Bretonnia, but at some point they'll be fleshed out, and I'm assuming we'll see them in campaign. There's already some mods for it, and I've actually thought about picking up a Bretonnian campaign mod and a unit mod, and just going in and trying to fight a Bretonnian campaign, just see how that turns out. But yeah, so as a faction, their flying units give Bretonnia their ranking, in my opinion. I would rank them at number 4 on the faction power board. This is just my factions. I would say that number 1 is the Empire, number 2 is Vampires, number 3 is Greenskins, and then very close behind the Greenskins I would put Bretonnia. And Greenskins just have more tools and better magic. That's why I would rate them ahead of Bretonnia. Don't get me wrong though, Bretonnia definitely has some capabilities. Yeah, sorry, I had to take a call there, so I think I was running through the rankings whenever I had to cut this off and jump back in here. So yeah, in terms of ranking, like I said, I rate them at number 4, and most of the reason why they sit at number 4 better than, say, like the Dwarfs or Chaos or Beastmen, and that's, I don't have a real solid understanding of Beastmen yet. Personally, I'm ranking Bretonnia ahead of them right now, but we'll see. It kind of depends when I get to take a chance to take a good solid look at them. But essentially, like I said, the flying units led by King Leonker, and even this Lord isn't super bad, but I find that Leonker is definitely worth his money. He doesn't have a healing potion, but he has regeneration, which is kind of like a slow, permanent healing potion. He's a very good character. I almost always would recommend to put him on Beaky. Why not? I mean, he always comes on, and I know some of you are going to say, that's not how it's pronounced. That's what I call him now, is Beaky. So in any case, in terms of abilities, there's a lot of talk about which of these abilities is worthwhile. I definitely think Beloved Son of Bretonnia is pointless. It's always disabled if his leadership is high, and it's only going to turn on if he's like wavering or if his leadership is low. And at that point, do you really want to be paying 62 gold for that? I think the answer is no. You have the Ladies Champion. This one basically replenishes, so you definitely want that one on. The Blessing of the Lady gives an extra 12% damage resistance to all allies within a 45-meter radius. This is definitely worthwhile. It's 140, but I mean, you can choose to have it on or off, but I feel like that would be worthwhile. Foe Seeker, again, it's up to you if you want the extra speed and vigor. A lot of people feel pretty strongly about this. It's 65 gold. Deadly Onslaught does give you extra charge bonus and armor piercing, which can be worth it when you're going head-to-head with an enemy hero. And then you got Stand Your Ground. Sometimes I take this one, sometimes I leave it behind. It's 140 gold. It lasts for 15 seconds. It's not bad, but a lot of times I just leave this one behind to save money. And in terms of a special item, I didn't use it a whole lot this week, but the Sword of Korone is actually a pretty sweet special item, and it lasts for a full 32 seconds, robbing the enemy of huge amounts of defensive capability. So losing that much melee defense and armor can definitely make a difference in certain battles, especially when they're up against cheap units. So I think that basically if you're looking to maximize the usefulness of Leonker, personally I would probably bring him in this configuration right here. And you get away with a pretty decent price on him, and you get a lot of bang for the buck. Now Paladin is pretty straightforward for me. I usually just leave their abilities at home and bring a potion of toughness. And of course I put them up on a Pegasus. So that's my typical Paladin at 977. When should you bring the damsel and when should you not bring the damsel? You kind of have this option open to you. It depends. If you want to debuff what you feel like will be strong enemy infantry, I think that's when the damsel comes in handy, because you can come in here and you can like basically right size her spells. I don't think the vortexes are going to be worth it. Neither is Comet of Cassandora. Uranid's Thunderbolt can sometimes be useful, so I would usually leave it on. This Curse of the Midnight Wind. Wind Blast is occasionally worth it. And this one right here, the Harmonic Convergence, it only works on one unit, and there's no overcast version of it, which is kind of frustrating. At least I'm pretty sure there's no overcast version of it. There is. Additional effect on armor. Yeah, so it just takes away, like, it just gives you more armor. It's questionable. Could this help you in a cavalry fight? Maybe. I didn't test it a whole lot. You can leave it behind and it saves you a little bit of money, because Bretonnia doesn't have like any high tier infantry where you'd normally want to see that kind of thing. You can take this stuff, and again you can determine, do I need 12% magic resistance? Yeah, probably not. And that saves you another 63. Roiling Skies. This is typically pretty good for Bretonnia, because this Roiling Skies takes away melee defense and missile parry from enemy flyers, basically, and it's map wide, and it's not bad. Arcane Conduit, again, that's up to you. You can keep it or take it. It's 137, so that's up to you. And then usually you can just throw her on like either a Warhorse or a Barded Warhorse, and you get a pretty decent infantry boost for 806. She's not good in melee. Just be aware of that, and she doesn't have much armor. But she can be used to support peasant infantry, and she can buff up the peasant infantry and debuff the enemy infantry with some degree of skill. Just talking through other units, the Men-at-Arms Polearms, this is probably one of the most cost-effective infantry units in the game. They're cheap, they're not going to win versus everything, but when you just look at the bang for the buck you get out of these guys, it's fantastic. You really can't beat it. It's really good. The key to this unit, and with also the Spearmen at Arms, both these units have charge defense against all. That is only active if they are stationary and braced. And I'm assuming it's only active if you charge them from a front, where they get that bracing bonus. I would hope they don't get a bracing bonus when you charge them from behind. But yes, this works against all units. You can negate the charge of enemy infantry, and although this unit isn't spectacular, when you look at that 40 melee defense, coupled up with some nice armor piercing damage, these units can be very effective, and especially when they're supported by Leonker and a flying death squad. So do not underestimate the Bretonnian infantry. It is easy to rout it with fear and terror. They are not super sturdy, but if you take a high charge, high armor unit and you charge straight into these guys, you are playing to Bretonnia's strength, and I would recommend against it. These peasant bowmen, great bang for the buck, 160 range, just yes. That's the only thing I have to say about these guys is yes. Mounted yeomen, pretty crappy unit. If you want to be sneaky, that's their only use, and it's going to be a rare use. Knights of the Realm, definitely a solid unit at 900, good unit. I mean, again, use. Grail Knights, depends on who you're playing against. I find the Grail Knights to be particularly devastating versus Dwarfs and Greenskins, but again, remember that this unit cost a significant portion more than Knights of the Realm. Their charge bonus is significantly higher, and they deal magic damage, and they have a little bit more armor. I mean, if we just take a look at their stats up against the Knights of the Realm has less health, less armor, less leadership, less melee attack, less melee. It's pretty much across the board a lesser unit. But you are paying substantially more. I think it's over 50% more for the Grail Knights. So you're going to be in rough shape trying to pay for this. So the Grail Knights, like I said, the reason why I think they're decent against Greenskins, the charge on these guys is devastating, and it does a lot of damage, and it takes a lot of work for Greenskins to bring these guys down. And I would say that it's the same thing for Dwarfs. Dwarfs struggle to bring these guys down unless they have missile units. Again, be careful when you pick them. Try not to bring them in large numbers because of their expense. I usually try and limit how many I bring, because again, if you look at, here's 4 Knights of the Realm, I can get that for a total cost of 3,600, or I can get 2 Grail Knights for 3,000. So basically I can get 3 cavalry for less than the price of these 2. And sometimes that's worth it. You kind of have to weigh that out in your mind and determine what will be most worthwhile. Both units are good. Neither unit is an anti-large unit. Keep that in mind. You may need to support with your paladins or your spears, bows, whatever it is. Alright, mounted yeomen. I find these guys to be pretty good against the beastmen. The beastmen do not have... Some of their units are fast and can potentially catch these guys, but most of their units are not shielded and low armor. And you use these guys to pretty good effect against the beastmen on an open map where you want to do some damage, deploy your army back, harass the beastmen a lot. You can usually dodge Cygors pretty well with these guys too. So I find these to be most useful against the beastmen, and that's just my opinion. Pegasus Knights, good solid flying cavalry here. You can use these guys to support your paladins and Leonker in the air. They're not spectacular in the air, but when it comes to just gaining dominance, they're definitely a worthwhile unit. They are really good in rear charging engaged infantry or getting a hold of skirmishers. These guys are quite weak to missiles, and they are pretty flimsy once they hit the ground and start getting attacked by either other large units or against a lot of infantry. They'll get overwhelmed. Their speed and their charge bonus is going to be the big bonus for the Pegasus Knights. Be careful of how you use these guys. Like I said, support your flying units or use them specifically to rear charge out infantry. Artillery, the field trebuchet is quite good against high armor infantry. It's not a whole lot of anything else. So for its cost against high armor infantry, like if someone was foolish enough to bring like a lot of black orcs against you or something like this and you managed to pick this, it would be a good pick. Same thing against great swords, same thing against Graveguard. It can be useful to that extent. The field trebuchet can kill Graveguard, for instance, like it'll take a unit off the field so that the regeneration won't regenerate that dead unit. They would have to use something like a Invocation and a Heck to get that unit model back. These can do some damage to cavalry, but they're pretty inaccurate. They're not going to be good versus a single target like a Lord or a Cygor or something else, like even another artillery piece. They're not that good. These are mostly good for wrecking enemy infantry that's high armor. So that's my summary of Bretonnia. Overall, solid faction. It's been a fun week. It's been a pretty successful week for me on Bretonnia. I don't think I lost a battle as Bretonnia all week. Not to say that I'm good or Bretonnia's super good, but clearly their play style suits me better. And clearly their playstyle is harder for other people to challenge than it is some of the other factions I've played. So yeah, and look, my ranking came up from the high 800s back up to a little bit under 800 here. So I gained about 100 spots there over probably 5 or 6 battles this week that I played. So not a whole lot of battles for a pretty big impact to my ranking. Bretonnia is a solid faction for me. Their play style suits me. They're somewhat aggressive. They do have some defensive capability. They have a tool for every category, even if it's not the best tool for every category. But to me, the air dominance is easier for me to use to good effect than it is for other people to stop it. It can be stopped. I've had it stopped before when I played as Bretonnia. It didn't happen this week, but you saw some other videos I put up where it did happen. Hopefully this gives you all some good perspective. What do you think of Bretonnia? Really appreciate those of you who watched this week, and I hope you enjoyed it a lot. Appreciate MSI for sponsoring the build that I'm recording this on, and I appreciate you, all of my awesome viewers, for tuning in, and I look forward to making you some future content, and feel free to rock on over to Twitter @AirTweets and look for a vote for next week's faction focus challenge or whatever it is that I've been doing here. I'll see you then.